Hello everyone, and welcome to Happy Bee Art Studio. We have a really nice painting for you today. Today I'll be showing you how to paint a mushroom, just like the one shown on my iPad. The picture can be found on my website and downloaded, hopefully. I don't know if you'll be able to. At the time of filming, I haven't finished my website. If you are watching this on YouTube, not through the website, I will leave a link to my website in the description below. Alright, let's get right to it. So, just gonna make sure. So I'm using a block of 100% cotton 5x7 watercolor paper. So what we're gonna start by doing is just looking at the mushroom's shape. And now, this isn't what everyone thinks of when we say mushroom, but I think that's one of the reasons I chose it, because all people have ideas of how things look. That our brains come up with ideas of how things look, but that's just our brain making up some idea. And really, we have to, when we're doing a painting of something, we have to look beyond that and not just see, oh, mushroom, but see all the little shapes and curves in it. And then we're going to mark that little spot where we have the brown. This really is a beautiful mushroom, isn't it? I don't know about you, but I find most mushrooms just simply gorgeous. Wonderful little things, aren't they? Some of them can be dangerous, though, so you just gotta keep a safe distance away from them, you know. There we go. Then mark the line up here. I know it looks hard, but it's not that bad. Immediately when I was planning this out and I found this mushroom picture, when I was going through some photos and things, and ran into this mushroom picture. I have one or two people that helped me out with this, but we were going through pictures. This one looked a little hard to draw, but I thought it looked neat, so I decided I'd try it. And it wasn't that bad, so we're just gonna now this picture doesn't make much sense, does it now? So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna make some wood marks, some rough wood, because this was on some fallen log or something. Really beautiful, you know? If you ever run into a time where you just can't come up with you can't get any inspiration for your artwork, just go out into nature and look around. Maybe you can find some good hiking trails around. Go there, take a little hike, and you'll find all kinds of things. Pay attention to your surroundings. You can see such amazing things. Falcons. Peregrine falcon. I think I found one of those ones. I think that's what it was. You can see all kinds of neat things. Get all kinds of good ideas. And that'll really improve your artwork because painting things from nature is hard if you haven't actually seen them. Like seeing something in person really does help you visualize. If you have seen something similar to what you're painting in person, it really helps you figure out what it would look like. There. So there we have our log section. with a mushroom on it. Now, for our black spaces, we're going to get a weird art supply, which we will want, and it is a permanent marker. You can use a Sharpie, but I'm using this Amazon Basics one that I had lying around. Can't remember where I got it, but you just can't go around the lines. Put it a little dark right there. Now, the nice thing about using permanent markers on your artwork is that they won't fade for anything. They don't. If you get water on them, they're not gonna fade and blend, but just kind of stay there. And if you use watercolor, it's alright to get it on the Sharpie lines because watercolor is transparent and you get that beautiful transparency over so that you don't have to worry about that. So it's not that big of a problem if you get paint on the Sharpie lines. Alright, so don't stress. Don't stress. If you find painting stressful, you're not doing it right. If you find it stressful, or you're doing it for any reason other than that you enjoy it, you simply are doing it wrong. Or at least for the wrong reason. Mistake, that's all right, because every wild mushroom is gonna look a little different. Now I'm using a micron for this, in case you were wondering. It is a 005. They're very tiny. I got mine at Michael's for a couple dollars. Normally, if you have a Michael's nearby and you don't have a micron, I recommend going in Michael's or craft store. I recommend going and picking one up. But don't buy your other art supplies from craft stores. Generally, they're overpriced there. So I recommend a place like Jerry's Artorama. You can order online and get them shipped. And for paper, I would recommend just about anything like Fabriano. If you can get their 100% cotton blocks, that's really the best option. But now you may look at bee paper and think that looks good, but if you the paint, once it dries on there, does not move. So the paint kind of gets locked in. If you don't want your paint moving much, then I think you really would like bee paper. But for my style, I don't really. If you're doing, for my tutorials and things, I don't think it would work very well because I often do blending and lifting. And the pen's gonna make some rough lines and things on the watercolor paper, but there we go, and we've got a nice little start of that. We're like 8 minutes in or something like that. So we're just gonna get our brushes. Get like a medium-sized brush, like a round 5. I don't know what these are, but I got these somewhere. I usually recommend a Mimic Kolinsky Sable. They're some of the best brushes you can buy, and some of the best prices. I mean, they're expensive, but not as expensive as other really good brushes. I think it's a net or something that got in here, but they're real good. If you can't afford those, I recommend the Menta brushes. Sorry about that insect, because it's coming in and causing trouble. It shouldn't be here. Now I'm using Da Vinci watercolors, the Earth-Friendly palette. You can find that. I think it's about $100 United States dollars, but it's well worth the money. We're gonna be using, right now I'm using Violet Iron on purple. There we go. And now, no, that's not exactly our full brown tone, but then we just gotta kind of lift some of that excess paint up, and we've started working on mushroom. Now we look at the rest of the mushroom and see that it's partially gray. So I don't have a gray in my palette, but that's all right. So we can take a little bit of burnt sienna and mix that with ultramarine blue. Now, burnt sienna and ultramarine blue make the best brown. But if you can't do that, try and but yeah, normally you'd think red and green to make a black or brown, but it doesn't exactly work, is really all I can say. This is a little purplish, but that's all right. So we're just gonna quickly lay down little strokes. Now get brush wet, don't bother to clean it. We're just blending there. And then blend each thing out a little bit, but don't do the tops. Don't get ahead now. If you get ahead of yourself, nothing good is going to come of it. Especially with this painting. And if you get ahead of me, you're not going to know what we're doing next. Now, get a smaller brush, a round 4, which is usually the smallest brush I use. Which are some people, sure that's a big brush, but I try to keep my paintings loose and not too detail intense. I mean, sure, I will admit I think a lot of my paintings look very detailed, but that detail just appears on its own. If we let the paint move on its own and do what it wants, we will get detail just accidentally. We will get a lot of neat textures and details accidentally, but not too much that it won't flood out. But it's a loose detail that just kind of appears on its own, which really is the watercolor look. So don't expect watercolors to be completely controllable. You've got to learn to. I think that's the hardest thing about learning watercolors. Watercolor isn't that hard to use once you've gotten used to it. But really, it's that getting used to the way the paint acts and getting used. And becoming and learning how to just let it move on its own, I think, is really the hard part. Now add a little of a pinkish color and a dark green to your blackish brown. Now you can use just browns and things, but I prefer myself to mix it because then it looks more natural. Bright red. Not too much of that. A little more green. Very dark green, like Paroline green. Now, using Da Vinci paints, you can use the Da Vinci red. That's what I'm using. That was a bright red. I don't know what pink was. You can figure it out, I'm sure you're all gonna devise. I'm sure you all can devise some simple solution that I'd never think of for figuring out colors and mixing them. Now for the layers on the shroom. Now that just looks absurd, don't it? slightly damp brush. Just enough to soften the lines and just kind of blend things out so that it looks not completely like we just did lines. We're trying to make this piece look natural. That's the key, natural. To make it look natural, we're gonna have to let paint do its own thing. But there are a lot of variations in nature, variations of random, sort of random things, and to capture those in our artwork, we have to let the watercolor move on its own. And now while that's still wet, let's put a very light mix, mostly water, of that color in. Still using a round 4. We're just going to keep using the small brush. I know this seems weird. I'm sure to some people around 4 would be big or medium. I'm sure some of you do use brushes like round 6, around 2. I know there's a good amount of people that use that kind of combination. I mostly use a 10 for most of my work. Okay, now this is way too dark, so just lighten that up. Some gentle brush strokes with no paint, no water, no nothing. It's just gonna blend things, mess with it. Everything hadn't soaked in yet is just gone. Now brush skin. A little bit of color on it, but that's alright. We can just kind of Also, make sure you have a gel pen handy. And now, we're going to need that in a minute. First, we get a little bit of gray, scan on the wood. And now get a wet brush and start and blend that. But we got to move it with the tree, the fallen tree. Or maybe it's not a fallen tree. Just the angle of a photo makes me think it's a fallen tree, so. Remember, we can make it rough. See, we got rough lines. Now, the reason I'm getting these rough lines, if you're having trouble getting that, you should see what kind of paper you're using, because if you you want a cold pressed 100% cotton paper to get these kinds of textures with. It's harder to create texture on papers like, say, Canson XL, which is fine to start with for simple paintings. And I'd say you could do it with this, but if you want these rough edges, if you're trying to make those rough edges, you're gonna have trouble if you're using something like a student grade paper like Canson. There's nothing wrong with it though. I mean, it's a good paper for the price. Just don't buy it at Michael's. Like I always say, craft stores should not stock art supplies, because art supplies at craft stores are overpriced. That's why you shouldn't buy it. So don't buy your art supplies from craft stores like Michael's. Order online from Jerry's Artorama. Doesn't benefit me if you order from Jerry's Artorama, but I guarantee it will benefit you. There we go. Now just a little more blending. just get the light color, like a raw sienna, yellow ochre, whatever. Raw sienna. And then stick that in there. Don't blend it much. We just, again, we can run a brush over it once or twice. And leave it. Alright. That's it for now with that part. Now we can get to the mushroom. And take your gel pen and near the tops of the mushroom, use the tops of the little branches, I guess we're going to call them. We'll call them branches of the shroom. Or before there we go. Still not finished. It's going to take some work now if you can. The gel pens take time to dry. So quickly take a brush over it. Time, but not much time, not a whole ton of time. Oh, my iPad keeps falling asleep. Didn't print the photo out because I don't like to waste paper. I reckon it's better to use a little bit of electricity to recharge your iPad every once in a while than to waste a bunch of sheets of paper with printing reference photos every time you want to paint. But if you want to trace the picture with tracing paper that's like not tracing paper, graphite paper. If you use carbon paper, that's going to be like waxy and everything. And if it's waxy, you can't do it because watercolor is water-based, and if you set water on wax, it just beads up and sits there. Now after doing that gel pen, make sure your brush is really clean. Now, get some nice dark, put some water on your brush, and just see in the photo where the shadow goes. It's just kind of a shape that just seems to exist, but it just kind of exists to show it's. And now we take more that color, and to make this look like bark, we're going to use that nice dark Alright. Now we're finished. Hope you enjoyed this video and your mushroom turned out well. And please like and subscribe, and that's all for this video. Hope you enjoyed this, and we'll do more paintings soon. Alright, that's all for today. Bye.